Good day, everyone. This video is another lesson discussion in EAPP, and the topic that I'm going to discuss in this video is basic report writing principles. And here are the lesson objectives. At the end of the lessons, you will be able to name the basic parts and purposes of different report sections, describe writing conventions related to these parts, and utilize these writing conventions in rewriting short report. So basic report writing principles. A written report is a clear, objective, and orderly presentation of the details of a research investigation or an assigned activity. There are different kinds of reports, but they all share some common qualities and parts. So this means that a written report is a complete account of a research investigation which contains necessary methods to answer a question or provide a solution to problems. Since this is a research investigation, it follows a proper procedure in order to come to the right answer to your research questions. The value reports. Written reports have different purposes in the academic and professional worlds. In school, your teachers may use your reports as a gauge of your learning. So, written reports can be used to evaluate or assess your ability to draw connections between a concept presented in class and real life situations. In the professional field, reports serve as significant records of decisions, for example, minutes of meetings, or as a foundation for decision making, for example, feasibility reports. Therefore, being able to write a good report is a necessary skill for academic and professional success. Writing style for reports. Regardless of type, your report should be written in a language that is concise, clear, objective, and non-discriminatory. So, in writing a report, there are principles and ethics that you should adhere to in order to write a good report. The first is concise writing. Concise writing means efficient writing. Your text should state an idea with the least number of words without affecting meaning. This means editing your report in order to cut unnecessary words and shorten expressions. This means that as much as possible, you need to be brief but complete in articulating the information you're going to present in the report. Okay, for example, from all the participants in the study were male who were 30 years old. They were all residents of Barangay 003, Ermita, Manila. They were interviewed. Two, the interviewees were 30-year-old male residents of Barangay 003, Ermita, Manila. So as you can see an example, from three sentences, you can actually state the information in just a sentence. Hence, you need to avoid being verbose or too wordy. Next is clear writing. Clear writing means writing that transmits to the reader the exact idea that you have in mind. Ideas are clear if they are expressed in concrete terms. Concrete means something that can be perceived. Its opposite is abstract, something that cannot be perceived. This means that you have to provide comprehensible information, which means that you have to provide accurate data in your findings. For example, from many of the participants reported being very satisfied with the Barangay Health Unit service. To 55% or 55 out of 100 of the participants reported being very satisfied with the Barangay Health Unit's mental health service. So in this example, instead of just saying the participants are very satisfied, you have to provide how many of them are satisfied. Thus, provide also the exact number. If you are conducting a quantitative report, then provide the statistical data of your research investigation. Next is objective writing. Objective writing means writing that is free of emotionally loaded or biased words so that the report appears neutral and actual. So this means that you have to provide the answer of your research question based on the results of your investigation, This means that you have to provide the answer of your research question based on the results of your investigation, regardless of your own opinion about it. So you have to avoid being biased of your arguments. So you have to disregard your personal feelings in conducting an investigation because this may compromise the quality of your report. Okay, for example, from unfortunately, a huge majority of the respondents were very dissatisfied with the barangay health unit's maternal health service. To 70% of the respondents were very dissatisfied with the barangay health unit's mental health service. So in this example, the word unfortunately is eliminated or unnecessary because it implies that the author is not in favor of the result. So regardless of the result, if the investigation is conducted properly, you have to accept it without any biases. Being objective also includes removing any hint of personal judgment in your writing. Consider, for example, the sentence below. The residents of Barangay X hoarded basic goods just before the super typhoon struck. So instead of saying hoard, you may use other terms that describe the situation. The word hoard has a negative impression, and its use in the sentence may imply that the writer disagrees of what the residents did. So a more neutral word should be used. For example, the residents of Barangay X bought more than the usual quantity of basic goods before the super typhoon struck. Next is non-discriminatory writing. Non-discriminatory writing refers to writing that treats all people equally and with respect. So this refers to being respectful when it comes to referring to people. So you have to avoid using words that may offend them. Hence, you have to be sensitive on addressing people. So first is the gender. Your language should reflect equal treatment of all people of different genders. Avoid using words like man, mankind, or he to refer to people in general, as people includes various genders. Rather, use gender neutral terms like people or humanity. In addition, do not assume that the default gender is masculine. So this means that you have to use gender neutral terms in order to avoid biases to the gender of the people you are referring to in your report. For example, a student must have his parents sign the waiver. In the example, there is an assumption that the subject must be a male student. So, unless the sentence refers to a particular case in which the student being talked about really is a male, it had better be revised to be gender neutral as shown in the next example. Students must have their parents sign the waiver. Parents must sign the student's child's waiver. Moreover, be careful with the use of the affixes man, woman, or s, as in barangay chairman, presidential spokeswoman, and directress. We suggest that you use gender neutral equivalents instead, such as chair or chairperson, spokesperson, or director. This means that you have to use terms that refer to both genders. Next is age. Reports must state precisely the age of any human participants in a study. For example, use respondents' age 60 to 65 instead of elderly people. So instead of using adjectives to refer to people, just indicate the age bracket of your respondents or participants. Take note as well of the usage of the following terms: boys, girls for people less than 18 years old, men, women for people 18 and above, according to American Psychological Association. Next is the disability. Never refer to people through their diseases or disabilities, as in autistics. Use instead persons or people with blank, as in a person with special needs. So you have to use politically correct language when it comes to referring to persons with disabilities or persons with special needs. Never address them based on their condition since it may offend them. So next is the parts of a report. Report parts may vary depending on the type and the teacher's requirements. So pay attention to your course or department guidelines. However, it can be said that most reports contain the following sections. So this means that the written report that you are going to produce depends on the requirements of your teacher. So there may be specific or prescribed format given to you by your teacher, but there's universal format that you may follow, and these are the following. So there's prefatory elements, and these are report sections found before the actual report, such as the title page and abstract or executive summary. Title page contains the title of your report. The title should give an initial idea what will be the content of the report or what is the report all about. And when we say the abstract, it is a very brief but concise summary of the whole report. It's like a bird's eye view of the report. It is complete from introduction to objectives, to methods, to results, and to the conclusion. And the report proper is the actual report, which usually has the following elements. So these are the parts that contain the research investigation. First is the introduction, second, procedures, next, results and discussion, fourth is the conclusion, fifth is the appendix, and the last one is the reference. When we say introduction, the purpose of the introduction in general is to present the objectives of the report. When we say introduction, the purpose of the introduction in general is to present the objectives of the report, depending on whether the report is a school or professional assignment. The readers and what they need to see in the introduction varies. Basically, it contains the background of your study or the observed situation that you want to deal with. It also contains the problem that you want to investigate and shed light to. And lastly, the method of your solution to address the problem. When we say procedures, the procedure section details the actions done and, as applicable, the materials used or the participants involved in order to fulfill the purpose of the report. In academic reports, the procedure section serves as an important means of evaluating the validity of the study. Thus, the writers should include enough details for readers to determine the validity of results and conclusions, and for other scientists to be able to repeat the procedure. So, this section is necessary to validate if your method in conducting the research investigation is correct or appropriate, that if your methods can truly gather the necessary data and the correct way of analyzing it. When we say results and discussion, the results and discussion section presents the findings resulted from the procedures performed. The results are usually organized based on the objectives found in the introduction. The results and discussion section basically answers the research question. So it should contain the gathered data, analysis, and interpretation. So in writing this section, it is important to support your analysis that with related literature and studies in order to substantiate your claims. And when we say conclusion, depending on the report assigned, the conclusion may contain any one or all of the following: a recap of key findings in the body, a final answer to the main question raised in the introduction. And basically, conclusion is a brief summary of the answers of your research questions, and it also includes the implications of the results and findings. So we can also include possible recommendations based on the results of the study. When we say appendix, it includes the tabulation of your data, the consent letters that you send to the authority in order to properly conduct the study, and etc. When you say references, these are the list of references that you use for your review of related literature. And that's the end of the lesson, and I hope that you have learned something in this video.